let's get ready for some January football.
And Baldy, I absolutely love it. Playoff football for the Broncos. If they win this week, they're the number 1 seed in the AFC. And so my question, I want to look at this game. We got the news that Justin Herbert will not play along with some other starters that are banged up for the Chargers. Is this the right move for the Chargers to do? Because they still could be playing for a little bit of playoff positioning.
I would rather be as healthy as can be, than to risk any further injuries. Obviously, the hand this year and the tackle situation, the running back situation, it's been bad. I'd rather be healthy and rested than, I mean, if you got to go on the road, you got to go on the road. I wouldn't worry about who I play. I would try to be as healthy and rested as possible. I think it's the right move for Jim right here, honestly, because whether they get to their 12th win or not, it's really not going to make that big of a difference. And so I don't think this is a bad move by him.
I agree, especially when you go on the road. When you know that you're going to be on flights and do all that stuff, resting up makes sense. But it does change how this game is going to look. And I'm curious, how do you feel about this matchup? Is it just the Broncos are playing backups and so they should be just fine and there's nothing to worry about?
Well, the Chiefs were playing just backups, and it was at least at the quarterback position. Defensively they played great, but they really challenged them. And I mean, I thought the Broncos. I mean, I don't know what was wrong with Cortland Sutton, but he didn't look like he could catch. They dropped a lot of passes. I'm not putting it all on the receivers, but they had opportunities to score a lot more points. And uncharacteristically, I thought they dropped some passes. They weren't very aggressive with the ball down the field, which is a little bit unusual. But they've played that style before. You got a new center in there and Forsyth, and he hadn't played. And so, I think you're trying to protect yourself a little bit against guys like Chris Jones, and you're just making sure that he doesn't ruin your offense the way he does a lot of teams in this league. So I think there were some of those factors that were involved right there.
Baldy, you mentioned Forsyth playing in place of Luke Wattenberg. Wattenberg is now on the IR, so it's going to be Forsyth going into the playoffs to an extent for the Broncos. How do you think he did in his first start, and how is that offensive line looking right now for the Broncos?
Well, I mean, Palcho and Powers, we'll see how the left tackle things, shakes out. But obviously Quinn's been awesome. But, Forsyth doesn't have what Wattenberg has. I don't think he's as powerful. I don't think he stays. But it looks like he can do all the mental gymnastics up front, getting guys hat on a hat, getting the protections right. They do some things with their center protections other teams don't do. They pull their center out of the hole to protect certain edges, against pass rushers that most teams don't do, but they ask their center to do it. I thought he handled himself pretty well there, to be honest with you. I mean, they didn't run for a lot of yards, but that's a good front with big linebackers. But I thought they ran effectively, when they had to.
I'm curious. I saw you did the breakdown on DJ Jones. And that's a guy who we don't talk about too much just because, he's a run stuffer. But you talk to Zach Allen, and what he'll say is the reason we get all the sacks is because we're in 3rd and 9s because of DJ. Yep. What do you think of DJ?
I love him. I loved him in San Francisco. I mean, I think he's just an underrated guy. I mean, because he's not really a pass rusher. He comes off the field. They have their interior pass rushers. But, when you're going up against Creed Humphrey, I mean, the guy's a Pro Bowl, not just a Pro Bowl center. I mean, I think Creed's the best center in football. And so, you can handle Creed Humphrey on the edges the way he did in the interior running game. I mean, just that matchup alone, I had to go watch it. And then Trey Smith is back. I don't know how many Pro Bowls Trey Smith has been to. He's been to a bunch, and he's healthy. And I thought he handled both those guys. Like, he wins with leverage. He's got long arms too. He gets guys off his body, and they don't budge him. And he's excellent at shedding blockers. I thought handling the interior of the running game of the Chiefs, I mean, they might have popped 2 runs the whole day. I thought he handled everything. And basically it's like, okay, if I got a baton in my hand and it's 1st and 10 and the Chiefs want to run the ball up the middle and I do my job in a 2nd and 9, I'm handing the baton off, to one of the other, Malcolm Roach or Zach or somebody else to come rush the passer. So he's done his job and he did it well on Sunday.
I love that. And I love that we're giving credit to guys that don't get it that often. Baldy, how important is it for the Broncos or any team, but specifically this Broncos team, to get the number 1 seed? We heard from Sean earlier. He said historically it's extremely important, but there's also some other people that might think like rest. There could be too much thing as so much rest and too much rest. Do you buy into that side? Do you think getting the number 1 seed is that important?
I mean, I live in Philly here. They've won 2 Super Bowls, and they've had the number 1 seed in both cases, and they got the rest. I was with some of the players yesterday, and it's. I understand too much time off. I've seen Andy Reid in Philadelphia, the number 1 seed, and he had 3 weeks. He took everybody off the final week, and then they had a bye week, 3 weeks before they played a game, and I didn't think too much rest was a problem. I think it's really important to have home field and a week's rest. I mean, it's set up to win it. It's set up to go to San Francisco and represent the AFC. Now, Detroit was number 1 seed last year. They had home field throughout. That Washington came in there and put up 45 points on them. It doesn't guarantee anything, but I'd take the week's rest and the home field in Denver. Who knows what the conditions are going to be like that time of the year? But I like my chances with Denver if they can secure that this weekend.
So then, Baldy, to follow up with that, who, let's say the Broncos do get the number 1 seed and the playoffs do run through Denver, who, in your mind, would be the toughest opponent in the AFC that would stand in the way of the Broncos and get into the Super Bowl?
Well, Jacksonville just went in there, 2 weeks ago and waxed it pretty good. So, I mean, Jacksonville probably doesn't have any fear if they got to travel and go do that. I think the Houston Texans defense is going to travel well no matter where they go. They just gave Justin Herbert fits the other day. We all watched it. I think that defense can travel. And right now, Houston, if they score 20 points or more, I mean, they're 15-1 this year if they could do that. So they're on an 8-game win streak. I think they feel pretty good about themselves. I don't think the atmosphere or anything that C.J. Stroud sees in Denver is going to be too big for him.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was just looking through some numbers this morning. Bo Nix has thrown the most passes in the NFL this year. And when you think about Bo Nix, that isn't really what you think of, right? Like, it feels like he's not the high volume quarterback. Is that interesting to you at all? That I guess he's tied with Dak Prescott for the most total passes thrown in the NFL this year.
What surprised me, I mean, it's almost 600 passes, I think. But, what surprised me, I guess, in that situation, I think a lot of the quick game that they play are passes, but they're kind of an extension of the run game. They don't have a big, powerful runner. Once J.K. went down, they don't really have that guy that, I mean, Jalil's been good and Harvey's coming on and all that, but they're not big power backs. And so I don't think it's the strength. I think they're playing to their strengths. I mean, Bo has got themselves, a lot of scrambles for first downs on passing situations. But I think what surprises me is that it would seem that they've been playing with the lead for many of these games for much of the season. And normally when you do that, it normally means you're running the ball a lot more and you're taking the air out of the ball. But that's evidently not the case right now. And I might be completely off base just thinking on my feet here and making that comment. But, I mean, Sean does favor the passing game. But I just think a lot of the quick game that they do, a lot of the quick screens and things they get the ball to Marvin Mims or, to Troy Franklin, I think in some ways it's a little bit like a run because the ball is thrown behind the line of scrimmage for the most part.
Yeah, there are a lot of passes like that. Baldy, speaking of Bo, do you think he has what it takes right now in finishing his second season to make a Super Bowl run, or do you think he's still a year or two away?
No, I mean, look, you look at these teams that have won Super Bowls. Now, take Brady out of the situation and, some of the, and Mahomes out of the situation. Mahomes won his on a young contract. Russell Wilson won his Super Bowl on his rookie contract. Joe Flacco won his on his rookie contract. Now he was 5 years in, but some of these guys have won, early in their careers. Brady won early in his career. So I don't think that just because you're in your second year, that you can't win the Super Bowl. Just because, I mean, he started every game now for 2 years. He's got over 30 games of experience. He's been to the postseason. He did play poorly in Buffalo last year. So I think he's got enough to go make a run. He's got the pieces around him. He's got the coach. He's got the defense. He's got star power in a lot of key places right here. I don't see why in a thing that looks like it's wide open right now. I don't see why Bo Nix can't be a guy that can bring home the trophy right now.
What is the weakness for the Broncos at this point? If you're game planning against them, what are you trying to target?
Well, while they have a lot of sacks, they don't have a lot of takeaways. That's been an issue all year. They don't take the ball away a lot. They don't cause a lot of fumbles. They don't recover fumbles. They don't take the ball away in the air. So, they're not taking possessions away. So I think that's one. I think, offensively, like a lot of teams, like if you're not getting explosive plays, you're not scoring a lot of points. Like we saw San Francisco and Chicago back and forth. They both had a ton of explosive plays. If you're not getting 20-plus plays and chunks like that, you're not scoring a lot of points in this league. It's too hard. The penalties back you up. Field position backs you up. Things happen. So, can they get explosive plays? And I think that's the question mark right now. Pat Bryant was out last week. Who's the guy that's going to go do that? Is Sutton the one guy that can get down the field for those type of plays? I know Troy Franklin's capable of doing it too. But it seems like that's been a weakness to this team is just being explosive in the passing game. And forget about explosive in the run game. They don't have Derrick Henry or Christian McCaffrey or some of these guys that can go get those chunk plays for you out of the run game.
Well, Baldy, final one for you because I loved what you pointed out that the Broncos need to improve in takeaways. Sean Payton pointed to that yesterday. He said that's the one thing that they're really focused on is getting more takeaways and improving that turnover battle. But they've been saying it all year. At this point, is there anything they can do to turn their takeaways battle better?
Well, it's interesting. Sean Payton, when they won the Super Bowl in New Orleans, he led the league. Coach Williams, they led the league in takeaways that year. And they got a lot of extra at-bats back to the offense and Drew Brees. You never stop working on it. Like, I don't really see guys there trying to punch the ball out. Just the old peanut punch, Peanut Tillman. I don't see guys punching the ball. I see a lot of other teams in this league, and I haven't been to the Broncos practices, so I don't know, but I've been to other teams' practices, and I see teams working on it every day. And I'm sure Vance is doing it. I'm sure he's emphasizing. I'm sure he's showing it. But I don't see them consciously trying to punch the ball out. And then, a lot of interceptions come off tip balls. And just when Seattle won their Super Bowl, I think they led the league in takeaways. They led the league in defense that year. And they got a lot of tip ball interceptions. And so you never stop working on it. They can come in bunches. And so I would continue to do it. But you saw Atlanta last night with 3 interceptions, and they were all great plays. Great plays by the 2 safeties, Xavier Watts and Jesse Bates. And, you got to have some instincts to get takeaways too. And, maybe we need to see a little bit more of that. The one guy that was able to get the ball out in a lot of key spots was Jaquan McMillan, and I haven't seen that from him much this year.
Yeah, very good point. Oh, really quick, Ball, you just got to get your national perspective on these 3 key games this weekend. Who's going to win between the Bucs, Panthers, the Seahawks, 49ers, and that night game with the Steelers and Ravens?
I like the Ravens right now without DK Metcalf and Darnell Washington in Pittsburgh. I mean, they couldn't score a touchdown last week. They went to, Marquez Valdez-Scantling 3 times in a row to try and score a touchdown at the end. He was awful, and there was all kinds of miscommunication. I think this is a Derrick Henry game. Like, I think you just, crank him up 30, 35 times like they did in Green Bay, and I think they can bring home that. I think just watching Carolina last week, they're not impressive offensively, but, Tampa is really not impressive in any phase of the game right now. But I would say Tampa, because they're at home, I'd give that one to Tampa. And then San Francisco and Seattle. Seattle's defense is really good, but I don't know that anybody's playing better offense than the 49ers right now. I'll take the 49ers at home.
I love it, Baldy. You're the best. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to talking to you during a Broncos bye week next week.
Okay. All right. Number 1 seed then. Let's make it happen, and I'll tell you what the bye week is all about, because I don't want those guys to go to Cabo for a vacation during the bye week. All right?
Good. I'm looking forward to talking to you about a bye week next week. Thanks, Baldy.